Hi everyone, this is Ben Falcons Media Corner back again with a brand new AK After a Soul review episode for today, which this one's going to be on a film that I saw last year from 2021, which this one's actually this one's part of a horror franchise which I was reviewing before, but I will try and finish it off probably around Halloween time or just whenever I wanted to. But I'm here to review the latest entry to the franchise, which this is a 2021 horror film, and this is the 9th entry to this franchise, and that is Spiral, also known as Spiral from the Book of Saw. So this is the 9th entry to the Saw franchise and was directed by Darren, Lynn, Bousman, who made 2, 3, and 4 to the Saw franchise. And this film stars Chris Rock as this police detective named Zeke Banks, which we basically see him and his partner, William, played by Minghella. Basically, they are called in to basically investigate some serious and gruesome murders that are happening in this small town, which consists this killer who is like a copycat killer of Jigsaw, even though he doesn't look like Jigsaw or anything, because this one's a different killer, but he has the same essence of what Jigsaw does. So he's using his own kind of dark form of justice that he's about to do, that he's doing to the small town, with people finding themselves in deadly traps and all that. So we see Zeke, as well as his partner and even his father Marcus, played by Samuel L. Jackson. They're all trying to work together to basically try and figure out who this copycat killer could be that's like Jigsaw. So that's pretty much the story of Spiral. So for Spiral, obviously this film was originally scheduled for a 2020 release, but it got delayed a few times because of the pandemic. And even from what I've heard before, after I saw this film, I heard that this almost did not get a theatrical release, but they were like, no, we're still going to give this a chance for a theatrical release, and obviously this film did for 2021. And so when this film was about to come out, obviously I had to prepare myself for the Saw franchise. And since then, I do tend to enjoy a few of them. Like, I like the first movie. I think that one's the only best one. A lot of people say that first one's only the best one. 2 was decent. 6 wasn't too bad, and Jigsaw was decent. But for the other ones in the franchise, like 3 and 4, I think those were okay. And 5 and 7, I think, are just arguably the worst ones, but mostly 7's the worst in the franchise. So I didn't know what this one was going to be like, since most of the Saw sequels aren't that great, because, well, people tend to have mixed opinions on the sequels. But I was surprised to seeing Chris Rock was doing a new Saw film, as well as Samuel L. Jackson. But I was mostly surprised with Chris Rock, because he's mostly into comedy films. So I was really surprised what he can do for his role in a horror film. And whenever an actor does anything like that, like if they were into comedy, doing like horror or drama, I kind of find that a bit risky. But I was looking forward to seeing what Chris Rock can do for a horror film. And as well as Samuel Jackson, he has done a few things like this before, but in the past, but he has done a few, but he's mostly into like bigger, better roles, the MCU or any of the big blockbusters out there. So I went to see this a week after cinemas reopened, but I went to see this in a different cinema. I actually went to see this where I do work right now, in a different View Cinema. I went there to see this movie even before I got my job back a few months later. And after seeing Spiral, this one, I would consider this entry to the Saw franchise okay. This one is definitely okay, but I wouldn't say this is the absolute worst since 507. This one I would consider just to be an okay Saw movie. First off, Chris Rock in this movie, he was surprisingly not too bad in the movie, actually. I thought for him doing a different doing a different role like this for himself, well, it is again pretty risky, but he wasn't too bad in the film for him stepping out of comedy to do horror, which some people who I've seen who've done that have surprised me. Like Jordan Peele, from doing a bit of comedy to directing horror. So for Chris Rock from doing something like this, he wasn't too bad in the film. But sometimes his dialogues in this film, like there are some lines of dialogues in this film, I kind of find them comedically cheesy. But Chris Rock wasn't too bad in the movie overall. And Samuel L. Jackson, he's pretty good in the movie too. He plays Zeke's dad in the movie, Marcus Banks. He's pretty good too in the movie, but he's not in the movie that much, and he doesn't have a huge part in the movie or anything like that. But But whenever he's on screen, he always does bring a smile to my face, since I am a massive fan of Samuel L. Jackson. But it's a shame though that he's not in the movie that much for like present day. But we mostly see him through flashbacks for the character of Zeke Banks. When there are some flashbacks with him, which this movie does tend to have a bit of does tend to have a lot of flashbacks. Which some of the other entries to the Saw franchise do tend to have flashbacks. Which some of them I don't really care about. While there's a few I don't mind. This one I kind of didn't mind here. But for this one here, I just didn't mind at all. But the direction by Darren Lynn Bousman, it was decent enough for a few parts of the film, like for a few traps, which we'll get into the traps in a few minutes. But it's mostly due to the tone and the writing, which I kind of find both of them less serious, and it kind of withdraw to me from this film because, well, I kind of appreciate what they were trying to go for something new here, but it just didn't reach up to what the first Saw film was like, and none of the and from the previous other entries to the Saw franchise since Saw 2 didn't really reach out to what the first film was like, which those are kind of bit of issues with some of the entries to the Saw franchise. This one I would say is definitely another issue I have with when it comes to some of the sequels to the Saw franchise. But again, I kind of appreciate something new, what they were trying to go something new here for the most part in this film. And the traps in the film, the traps are pretty creative enough for the most part. Like there are a few traps I did tend to kind of enjoy and remember, like the train, like one involving a train, one involving electricity and water, one involving a glass shredder, and the one at the end, which I won't say what happens because there will be spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen this movie. And for the way it ended, I wasn't a fan of the ending. When it ended, my mouth was just opened and was like not like wide as open, like massively jaw dropped. I was just like, what the hell? That's what I kind of felt like. I just really wasn't a fan of the ending. That was another complaint I had, along with its tone and writing and some directing moments, because there are some moments in this film which does tend to have some similar essence from the other Saw franchise back into this one, like hyper effects for some of the traps in this film. But Spiral, this is definitely not a terrible film. I wouldn't say this is the worst in the Saw franchise since 507. This one I would say is just an okay watch. There are some moments I did like in this one, and there are some moments I didn't like in this one. But if you are a fan of the Saw franchise and you're dying to see this one, if you miss your chance to see this in cinemas, it is streaming on any app service of your choice, or you can just purchase the film for yourself on your physical media of your choice. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Spiral. I'm going to give Spiral 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, this is definitely not the worst in the franchise since 507, which I think those are easily the worst ones. But I'd say I like this a little bit more than 3 and 4, but nowhere near as the ones that for the other Saw films I tend to enjoy a bit more than this one. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching for my AK After a Saw review on Spiral, and let me know what you think of Spiral if you have seen this already, like if you've just recently seen it for the first time, or if you've seen this last year. Did you have a blast with this one, or was this not your favorite entry to the Saw franchise? For those who are a massive fan of the Saw franchise, so thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more reviews. And as always, this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.